Rapids, Michigan. A row of cars in flames. Fires burning near the White House, even in the Church of Presidents.
What's good out there? Hope everybody's having a wonderful, blessed day, staying safe, staying humble, being encouraged, not discouraged in these times of triumph and crisis and pandemic that's plaguing not just our nation as a whole, but our entire world. If you guys have ever watched this channel before, you know that I like to talk about topics that pertain to modern day society, whether that be good, whether it be bad, whether it be pandemics, whatever. Because God gives me intentions, and those intentions are to try to help and convince people to be more open-minded and to be able to look at things differently than that sheep follow sheep mindset and ideology that the herders knows it all. Like, you should be able to think more open-mindedly about whatever topic that your mind is pertaining to at the time. So what I really want to discuss today, and I want to make this quick because I have wonderful speakers that are going to be coming onto this video later. One of them being a police officer here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. One of them being my cousin in La Mesa, California, which is on the front lines of this revolution right now that's happening. And one of them being a pastor and a preacher, which happens to actually be my father that lives in Indianapolis, Indiana right now, relating to what's going on right here in America. So I'll keep my lesson short, I keep my perspective short, but the thing I do want to tell y'all is there is a revolution going on right now, and it is not hard to see. You turn on your news channel, you drive down the street, you do anything right now in America, you're gonna see that revolution taking place. Google's definition of a revolution is this message right here: a forcible overthrow of government or social order in favor of a new system. The system is broken, people. Why else would there be a revolution to create the solution of creating a new system if it was not broken? Sometimes from destruction comes creation. Let me say that again. Sometimes from destruction comes creation. When a forest burns down, it grows back stronger. And that's the same thing our society is going to do. Sometimes we have to burn down to come back stronger. But there is a difference, and there is a flip side to my message. Love and hate are two opposites. Hate cannot create love, and love cannot create hate. All the things that are happening right now in society with these revolutions, people trying to hurt others, destroy local businesses, tear down what's been put in place to try to make this world better, is not helping. You're adding fuel to the fire, people. You have to be able to get your message out in a profound way without destroying the lives and destroying the creations of others. And also, my last point before I let y'all see these interviews and these messages from the others is you have to work together in this situation. You cannot sit here and be the divided states of America. You have to be the United States of America and work together. Being so against this person, being so against that person, and being so against this organization is not helping the solution. Only together we were able to become a working, functioning society. So I'm gonna let these people take over, and I hope that you guys get a good message from them. The first one's going to be a police officer here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. His name is going to be disclosed. His face is going to be disclosed. That was his discretion. So I wanted to get his take on this since he's working on the front lines with this. So enjoy, y'all. Tuesday, June 2nd. This is Zachary Darden interviewing police officer in New Mexico. So the first question: if you could change anything in the justice system, what would you change?
It's a little bit of a hard question, but what's interesting about that is before I became a police officer, I feel like my answer would have been different than after I became a police officer, because your perspective on life changes. So something that's been really frustrating for me personally, and I don't think it has anything to do with what's going on currently, is that I personally have arrested people that have been arrested in the hundreds, triple digit. They've been arrested over 100 times or more. And I've also arrested people that have been arrested for violent felonies in the past, and they're currently being arrested for more violent misdemeanors or felonies. I could think of 3 people just off the top of my head. and I've arrested them, and 1 or 2 days later, the judge releases them. It's not even like they don't even need to pay bail, they just get released. So that's kind of something that happens here in New Mexico that I know a lot of my coworkers and I are unhappy with. So what I would like to change, but I don't know how to change it, would be, somebody that is a career criminal, especially someone that's a violent criminal. They're violent to the public, they're violent to family members, they're violent to police. I just think that they should serve longer periods in jail rather than just being arrested. Because I've arrested somebody and they were released 2 days later, and I arrested them the 3rd day after they were released again. So that's something that's very frustrating.
Cool, definitely, I agree with all those on a 100% level. So, the second question is, what is something you want people to know about the true police officers of the United States?
That one's a little hard too. I mean, a true police officer is everybody that wears a badge and a uniform. That is the true police officer, because they were chosen by the state to represent the state. That's what their badge and uniform represents. It represents the authority to enforce the laws and to govern and serve and protect the public. So everybody that wears the badge and the uniform is a true police officer. We all have the same responsibilities and the same abilities to enforce laws and take people's rights away. Now, unfortunately, I mean, we all know, we've all heard the same thing, that, a couple bad apples don't make the whole batch rotten, or something along those lines, which is true, but also I think it's a little bit deeper than that. I mean, we're dealing with, human beings, that every human being comes with a bias and a background and different experiences, and just how that person is feeling that day they can make a fatal mistake, either for themselves, a coworker, or for the public. So to get to my point, you're asking me the true definition of a police officer is, a true police officer is just a human being. There's good human beings and there's bad human beings. There's selfish human beings, and all of us are selfish, but you need to recognize that and try and be as serving and selfless as possible. So I guess a true police officer is just a human being.
Absolutely, I definitely agree with that, because I feel like a lot of people look at police as they're supposed to be like these emotionless beings that are supposed to be perfect all the time. Obviously you're not, because you're just as human as me and anybody else that's watching this video,
sure,
or that hears the sound of our voices.
Yeah, and just to touch on that, for me personally, I've personally had bad days, and when I went into work, I was working with somebody who maybe needed a little more sympathy or empathy, and because of my bad day or how I was feeling, and this is kind of just touching on the surface of everything that goes into like a human being a police officer, but for me that day I was a little bit meaner to that person than I should have been, and that's not what he needed. So that's just one example that you're a little agitated and you've had a rough day. It could just make a bad interaction with a public citizen, and that's something that sucks as well.
Absolutely, definitely. So I guess the third and final question now is, do the current times that we're facing in our nation and our world bring fear into you as being a police officer, since you're on the front lines of this situation?
Yes. Fortunately, being in New Mexico, it's not as bad as other big cities. Like Minneapolis is really bad, like we know. Los Angeles is really bad. So just even before what had happened to George Floyd, that's his name, right? George Floyd. I just don't want to say his name incorrectly.
No,
that would be disrespectful.
Yeah, that's all right.
Even before that, we kind of had a culture that was very anti-police, which from an unbiased standpoint is understandable, because when you call the police or when you have an interaction with a police officer, it's usually not going to be a good day. It's going to be, at best you're getting a speeding ticket or a warning, and at worst it's, bullets are flying and people are injured, or a rollover where a loved one died. So, we associate somebody in a uniform with something bad, and that's just the description of the job. You have to deal with the worst things that happen in people's everyday lives. So even before, as bad as it is like today, right now, at this time, it's always very nerve-wracking, and you always have to keep your head on a swivel. But now especially, it's well known that everybody hates cops. But now I feel like it's even seen in the eyes of the general public as acceptable to look at a cop as less than human, and to physically assault them or verbally assault them even, and to treat them wrong based on, and that could be based on previous encounters with other law enforcement officers, but regardless, that's like very widely accepted in today's, and so now especially where we're kind of seeing that into fruition, or if you watch some of these riot videos, they're like separating officers and, kind of beating them up. Not kind of, they're beating them up, they're, speaking to them disrespectfully. And that's coming from a place of emotion and anger, which I can empathize with. So the long-winded answer to that question is yes, what's happening today does make the job even just a level more dangerous than it already is. But, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and I try to be the best that I could be. So hopefully, as I continue in my career, I can still do those things. And I accept, the risks involved. So, yes, I feel more fearful of what can happen, but I'm also every day I have to mentally prepare for that as a possibility and accept it so I can do my job.
Wonderful. So, there you have it, everybody. That is an officer here in New Mexico. His name, his department, badge number will all be disclosed. That's his discretion. So don't comment asking me about it, but that is the short answer to basically his answers to what's going on here in the state of New Mexico. So this is now June 2nd, Tuesday at 2:22 p.m. This is Zachary Darden, and now we're going to move to our next interview.
Okay. Cheers. Another successful day out of many days of reckoning from POC, aka people of color. I guess my 2 cents on this would be that people aren't angry just because there is a murder of a black man, because we've been seeing that over the last 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, hundreds of years. We have just slowly come out of 450 plus years of oppression on black people and all minorities, Mexicans and Hispanics, Asians. Every single person who is a minority in America has felt oppression at some point in their life. And it wasn't just this one death that has struck anger in the hearts of the people who are minorities. It's been the several centuries that we have felt oppressed and felt that our voice wasn't heard. And using demeaning and using demeaning words and words of belittlement don't work ultimately, and are counterproductive. Calling people whitey and cracker and calling people all kinds of names and using the hard R, whatever. These are just words at the end of the day, but you don't need to use them to further your point. Use your sense of logic, use your sense of practicality, common sense. E pluribus unum, which is on the back of every, I believe, quarter in U.S. currency, means one out of many. And as far as I'm concerned, this is the divided states of America, not the united. I see two parts in this. One side who is for freedom, democracy, and the power to the people, and then one side who sees oppression, and one side who sees the power of the government and letting them do and say whatever they want to control how we should feel. And that's not right. And I think if a building needs to get burned down, let's say a bank, like behind my house, I had two banks, this Chase Bank and a Union Bank, were burned down to the ground. I can actually show you. I can see it right from my balcony here. There's 2 buildings over here. They were a Chase Bank and a Union Bank. Now, completely burned to the ground, and you can see there's still fire trucks coming around. Banks are insured by the FDIC. People are gonna get their money back. It's just a bank, but do not loot and steal from hardworking Americans that have been on the block for 10 years with their small corner stores and bodegas and little gas stations and shit like that. Like, okay, go rob a AT&T, go rob a Verizon, go do that shit, whatever. That it's not gonna help anything, but I know, God willing, it's gonna make our voices heard, and that's without a doubt in my mind. And I think every minority, every black person, and every person of color can understand when I say that we need to be heard. And this nappy head, this nappy hair is definitely going to be heard. And that's all I got.
Hello, everyone. So this is Don Darden. A lot of people refer to me as Reverend Don. But what I'd like to do is just, at the request of my son, Zachary, is just kind of give my thoughts and perspective on what's happening this day. And honestly, I don't know where to start. My heart is heavy. My emotions are high. My frustration level, anger, all those emotions are probably surging right now because of some of the current state with the police violence. And then even worse, people like me, that look like me, that grew up like me, that are taking their frustrations out on our own community. And it's heart-wrenching when I look and see people that are really taking time to process what they feel and why they feel, and just really acting out. And I agree 100%. I can't tell you how much the last few years have impacted me in terms of what I feel and why I feel the way I do with racism. But here recently, I sympathize with those that have lost. I sympathize with those that have gone through hard times. But for those that are just taking this opportunity to loot, to damage, to destroy property, I mean, a lot of people work very hard for what they have. And I'm not a fan of some of the frustrating things that I see out there. But what I would like to do is just offer some encouragement and tell people, if they listen to this message, to take heart, that God is still in control, that God never left us, He never forsake us. And in fact, I think God is preparing us for such a time as this. And there are going to be those that rise up to step up to the challenge, because in this day and time, we need some true leaders. We need leadership. We need people that are willing to stand in the gap for those that can't speak up for themselves. We need people that are strong, courageous, people that will not back down and will not use violence to sort out their emotions, but will use their voice to speak to a political system that is poison, to speak to a leadership system that needs a revamp. And I just want to say that I'm proud of the young people that have taken time to stand in the gap and stand up and speak for one another. But I also ask those that are in my generation, those that are 40 plus, to lean in and embrace those young people and give them an ear to listen and talk and speak into their hearts and speak into their minds and their spirit, and remind them that history has a nasty habit of repeating itself if we don't learn from the past. So I would say let's do our best to love each other, to trust each other, pray, and then take action with our voice, to let our voices be heard and not let our emotional state begin to drive us and with our physical behavior. So anyhow, stay blessed, stay strong, stay encouraged, and know that God has got the final answer. God bless you. Amen.
So there you go, 4 different perspectives from 4 different walks of life. I hope that y'all learn a little bit of something from this. And remember this, energy is contagious, anger is contagious, but also so is peace and happiness. Choose what you contract inside of you. Peace, y'all. Much love and happiness.